The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. In those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day that Noah entered the ark. They did not know until the flood came and carried them all away. So will it be also at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be out in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and one will be left. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come. Be sure of this, if the master of the house had known the hour of night when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and not let his house be broken into. So too, you also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect the Son of Man will come." The Gospel of the Lord. With the new liturgical year, today we begin our reenactment of the drama of salvation, beginning with the incarnation of Jesus Christ on Christmas and culminating in the celebration of the ultimate victory of Jesus on the feast of Christ the King. So it is our annual pilgrimage to the scenes and events of the history of our salvation. And the Advent season is a time for looking both backward and forward. We are looking backward in the celebration of the historical birth of Jesus Christ. By preparing for Christmas, we are looking backward, the historical birth of Jesus Christ. At the same time, we are looking forward to the celebration of the second coming of Jesus, to welcome him into all areas of our life, especially during Advent season. And today's first reading, at the end of today's first reading, there is a call. That call gives us the mood of Christmas season, mood of Advent season. Let us walk in the light of the Lord. At the end of today's first reading, we have heard, let us walk in the light of the Lord. So Advent season is a time which invites us to walk in the light of the Lord. So we are invited to have the light in dark days of our lives. And it is also a season of hope. We are also invited to be hopeful in our own regard and in regards to others. And we know that hope is more than optimism. In order to be optimistic, we need to have good human reasons. But even there is a little reason, human reason, to be optimistic, we can be hopeful. Because hope is a virtue rather than an attitude. So we are invited to be hopeful, and we are hopeful because we hope because we believe that God is at work in a life-giving way, even in the midst of the death. We hope because we know that God's light shines in every darkness. We also hope because we trust that in the words of Angel Gabriel to Mary, nothing is impossible with God. So we have several reasons to be hopeful because throughout our lives, God has saved us. God has filled us with His Spirit. God has filled us with His power and strength. So we have many, many reasons to be hopeful, especially during this Advent season. And today's first reading from the book of prophet Isaiah gives us a vision. In that reading, Isaiah imagines a time, at that time, all the nations and all people without number will stream towards Jerusalem, seeking God, seeking God's words. He gives a vision of people on the move, a people on a pilgrimage. They want to open themselves to the words of God so that they can realize, they can understand God's dream for them. So they are making a pilgrimage to understand, to realize God's vision for them, God's vision for their personal lives as well as for the world. And during this Advent season, we all are invited to make a journey towards God, a journey towards God's words, so that we may understand God's dream for all of us. God has a dream for each one of us. When you are journeying towards God's word, when you are listening attentively to the words of God, we understand, we realize what is God's dream for us. And that attentive listening helps us to live according to God's words. And we are allowing our lives to be shaped by God's words. We are allowing God's words to shape our lives, our thoughts, and our speeches. So during this Advent season, let us take an effort to realize, to understand, to see what is God's dream for me and what kind of life God is wanting from me to live in this world. And when we are trying to live that dream, we need to get rid of something from our lives. We need to be away from all those things that have no place in the dream of God. We need to be away from all those things that are contrary to the dream of God for our lives. And that is what St. Paul says in today's second reading. Stay away from all those things you do under the cover of darkness. Be away from all those things you do under the cover of darkness. Instead, do decent things that you do in the daytime. And he is inviting us to be a people of daytime, a people of light. And when we are coming to the gospel reading, Jesus says to us, stay awake and stand ready. Stay awake and stand ready to receive God, to receive the second coming of Jesus Christ, the arrival of Jesus Christ into our hearts. So in the first reading we have seen people are journeying towards God, and in the gospel reading we have seen God is coming to us. He is journeying towards our hearts. So the first reading, we are making all our efforts to go to the dream of God. And in the second coming of Jesus Christ, He is coming to us. And we need to stay awake. We need to be prepared, ready to receive Him, ready to welcome Him into our hearts. We need to sharpen our spirit. We need to sharpen our faith. We need to be strengthened in our faith journey. So the Advent season is a time to check our sharpness of our faith, to check the strength of our faith. There is a beautiful story of a woodcutter. A very strong woodcutter wanted to work with a timber merchant. He went to him and asked for a job, and this wonderful timber merchant gave him the job to cut the trees. And the wages he gave was very good, and so were the working conditions. So this particular woodcutter was determined to do his best, because he is giving a good wage and he is providing good working conditions. He thought that it is his responsibility to do his best in his work. So the timber merchant gave him an axe and showed him the place where he is supposed to work. The first day he went to the work, and by the evening he brought 18 trees. And his boss was very happy. He congratulated him. And being motivated by the words of the boss, he decided to work harder next day. And with that decision, he went to work next day, but he could bring only 15 trees. The next day, he tried even harder, but he could bring only 10 trees. So day by day, the number of trees he was bringing was less and less. He started thinking, something happened to me. I'm not strong enough to work. Something is happening to me. And he went to the boss, he went to the timber merchant and told him, I don't know what is happening in me. I'm not able to work. I'm not able to cut the trees. Then the timber merchant asked him one question. When was the last time you sharpened your axe? When was the last time you sharpened your axe? To that question he replied, sharpen? I do not have any time. I had been working busy. I had been busy cutting trees. I'm not thinking about sharpening the axe. My dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, we may be busy with many things. We may have neglected our spiritual life. But this is the time, Advent season is the time to sharpen our spirit by becoming more faithful, more loving, more compassionate. And let us see God's word to realize, to understand His dream for us. And let us try to live that dream in our lives. Amen.